Making 100 cold calls per day will transform you into a killer on the phones so that you can consistently set meetings, gain status in your career, and earn more money. 4 years ago, I started my software sales career as a sales development representative, and the best advice I ever received was that cold calling is never going away. You may as well learn to love it, embrace it, and get as good at it as you possibly can. And that's what I did. I've made over 50,000 cold calls. I promoted 6 times at the same company. I'm currently a senior account executive. I 4X'd my income. And I believe that there are 3 core fundamentals that have helped me to achieve those results. Number 1 is, how do I consistently find enough prospects to add to my sequence to actually be able to make 100 cold calls per day? Number 2 is, what is a professional strategy to execute day in and day out to stay consistent and actually make sure I'm making the dials? And number 3, how do I set the meetings with a proven B2B talk track once I actually get the prospects on the phone? And that's what I'm going to share with you here today. If you enjoy my videos, hit the like button right now and comment the pin emoji down below for the algorithm. Our goal is 15,000 subscribers, so subscribe now if you're not already. Strategy number 1 in the core fundamental: how do you actually find enough prospects to consistently add to your sequence to make 100 calls day in, day out? When I first started my software sales career, the first month, I needed to qualify, I think, 6 opportunities at the time, and I managed to get 5. So I failed, and I was actually the lowest performer on my team. So I didn't know what to do. I was used to always excelling at things. I was right out of college. I was probably a little entitled. I wasn't working as hard as I knew I could have. So I went to the senior sales leader and I said, hey, what do I do about this? How do I get better? He's like, look, you truly got to be all in. You got to leave it all on the table day in and day out, and that's the way to get better. So I took that advice to mean, okay, I'll just work harder than other people because I can control my attitude and my work ethic. I can't control how I look, my experience, my talent, how good I am on the phones. It's my attitude and my work ethic. So I decided to make more calls than every other person around me. And that's what I did. So I said, I'm going to make 100 cold calls per day. The expectation's 80, but I'm going to make 100. The first problem I ran into was I never had enough prospects to actually make the calls. So what I started to do was to find 50 prospects, add them to my sequence, and then I'd call them twice in a day. This works to an extent, but I think it's more effective to have 100 different people rather than 50 people you call twice, because that would allow for twice as many potential opportunities if you're calling into 100 different companies, for example. So tactical strategy number 1 is thinking about warmth versus big companies. And the way you can think about this is, look at your book of business. If you're an SDR, you work with an account executive, talk to them about their book of business. If you're an account executive like me, you need to do a territory plan and look at your companies that you can sell into by revenue, employee count, industry, and look at them and then say, what are the companies that can spend the most money with me? Those are you want to identify at least 50 of those, and those you want to be a little bit more targeted. So it's going to require you to go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator, into Zoom Info, and make sure you're finding the right buyer personas with the right titles, and you construct the right messaging to actually reach out to them. So that takes a little bit more time, but those opportunities will typically result in higher value. So if you're quantified on pipeline generated, you want to target those big companies that can spend more money. As an account executive, I need opportunities that are big deal value. That's the only way I'm going to hit my quota. Simultaneously, when you're targeting the big companies, you also want to identify the warmth, the low-hanging fruit. And the way you do that is by finding, what is the compelling reason for me to reach out to them? I am cold calling them out of the blue, but how can I make it seem like I'm a friend in their phone with the name that they'll recognize so that they answer my phone call and then eventually agree to the meeting with me? So what you can do, number 1, is look at interesting moment reports. And this is what I have done and I do daily. An interesting moment is a prospect that has downloaded an ebook, has attended a webinar, has requested a demo, has done some sort of inbound activity that they've expressed some interest in your company. We have an inbound team, and the really hot ones go right to the inbound team, but there's a lot that don't go to them that me as an outbound prospector still need to follow up with. So if they even interact with your company, if they've sniffed your company, if they've even looked at your company, if they've spoken with you before, that is an interesting moment and absolutely a prospect that you want to follow up with. I run a report and I look at this daily so that I can catch people as soon as this happens, but I also change the time filter so that I can look at this in the past 12, 24 months to find everyone Secondly, you want to look at lost opportunities. That's what I just spent an hour doing. It's 7:30 p.m. I'm still in the office. It's the beginning of Q3 in July, and I said, I need to absolutely grind so that I can set myself up for a big quarter. So what I did was I looked at the lost opportunities, the prospects that have actually spoken with my company in the past, and for some reason, the deal or the opportunity was dead or lost. I put the filter back 3 years, and I literally added probably 25, 30 people to my sequence just this evening from finding lost opportunities. This is naturally lower hanging fruit because you can call them and say, hey, you spoke with my team in the past. I'm your new point of contact. I'm sure a lot's changed in your business, and let's set up a meeting to talk about how relevant updates will serve you and your business and your priorities going forward. Something like that, and it always works. And then the number 3 strategy with warmth is a title report. So your Salesforce data is probably out of date like mine, but you still have a lot of prospects that are in Salesforce, and you know your ideal titles such as human resources, marketing. Run a title report, find all of those titles, so maybe a couple hundred prospects, and you can start to pick and choose which ones you want to add to sequence, or you can do bulk auto email campaigns. So that is the warmth, low-hanging fruit that allows you to quickly and easily add a lot of people to your sequence while also targeting the big high priority accounts that can spend a lot of money with you. That's going to be a little bit slower. You do both of these strategies, and that's how you consistently add between 20 to 30 new prospects to your sequence per day so that you can actually make 100 cold calls. It takes a little bit of time to ramp up to that point, but as an SDR, this is what I was doing every day, consistently adding new prospects to my sequence each and every day, so that takes us into step number 2. What is a professional strategy to actually execute on the calls and make them each and every day? Is that I always send an email. Before I ever cold call somebody, I always send an email. A lot of people ask me, Trent, what does your sequence look like? And to clarify what is a sequence, we use a platform called Outreach. It's very expensive, and there's competitive, I think SalesLoft, there's a lot of platforms that are sales execution platforms. They help manage my tasks. So a sequence is a combination of tasks. So if I add you to my sequence, it's gonna trigger me to send you a manual email day 1. It's gonna trigger a phone call day 2, auto email day 3, and then you get the picture. I am basically calling them 9 times and sending 8 emails over the course of 23 days. Very aggressive. 17, 18 touch points over 23 days. So by the end of it, they're absolutely going to know my name and company. There's no hiding. So as I think about the actual strategy, I'm adding a lot of people to my sequence every day. That's step 1. Step 2 is the actual execution. A lot of people think, when is the best time of the day to cold call? It's always a good time of the day to cold call. But if you really want to be tactical about it, the morning and the afternoon are what most experts would agree are the best times to cold call to get the best answer rate, because you can't always control if they answer the phone, but you can control you making the calls. So what I do is actually block out time on my calendar to make sure I'm holding myself accountable to making the calls. Always in the morning. I personally love the afternoon from the 3 to 5 p.m. call block time frame, because I think that that's the highest answer rate and what I found to be the most successful, because a lot of reps justify to themselves, I'm gonna plug it in today. I'm just gonna stop making calls. I'm gonna go home because I want to beat the traffic, whatever it may be. So those are the 2 best times to call. You want to set up time on your calendar to actually make the call and just go and start to do it. And the next thought in people's heads when they think about the actual professional strategy is they're worried about it. They're worried about, what if I get told no? What if I get rejected? What if I'm sitting in my office and everyone's around me and they hear me get absolutely body bagged on the phone? How am I ever gonna do it? Some reps like to go sit in the booth. Some reps like to walk away. I have always been the rep who wants to sit right here in their chair at their desk in front of everyone, and I'm willing to fail in front of everyone, and I don't care. I've gotten to a point when I'm cold calling, it's actually therapeutic. I put on my headset right here, I sit at this desk right here, and I literally just sit there and I almost feel like I'm getting a massage. The best professional athletes are so good because they're out there acting instinctually. They are acting on instinct. They are just completely reacting to what's happening with quick twitch, fast motions that they have trained day in and day out. The athletes that are out there thinking, like Jason Tatum in the finals, their performance goes down because they're overthinking it and getting in their own way. Anytime you're worried about somebody telling you no, anytime you're sitting there worried about, oh, this gatekeeper always shuts me down, anytime you're worried about, I don't know what to say, that is you getting in your own way, and that is the problem. You thinking that there's a problem, that is the problem. All you gotta do is sit down, press the call button. Once it starts ringing, that's when you figure out what to say. You don't do prep. You don't worry about context. You press the call button and you figure out what to say later, and you start to do those in buckets of 10. So I'll sit down, I'll put my phone away, I'll X out LinkedIn, and I won't look at any BS distractions. I'll sit there, I'll make 10 calls. I'll bang out 10 calls as fast as I can. And then I'll maybe check LinkedIn. And then I'll go right back and make 10 calls, bang them out again. I'm just sitting there, I'm not even thinking, I'm chilling, I'm feeling good. And that's the professional strategy, how experts do it like myself, who bang out volume calls, and that's really what it takes. Finally, this takes us into the third and final foundational skill is once you get people on the phone, how do you actually structure the call to set up the meeting? I'm gonna share with you the professional secret that I use to set more meetings. When you catch somebody out of the blue, psychologically, they are wondering, who are you? What do you want? You need to give them that in the first 5 seconds to actually earn their attention to give your value pitch. So when I get them on the phone, I always say, hey, this is Trent from insert company name. Those Jake from State Farm commercials, he's like, Jake from State Farm, everyone knows it. So I say, hey, this is Trent from insert company name. How are you? And they'll say, okay. If they don't ask me how I am, then I need to get right into it. If they ask me how I am, that's how I know I got them. So you can learn a lot from that how you are question, although realistically, they don't really care. They know that you probably don't care about how they actually are. But if you sound like you do, then it's legitimate. Once you give them that, you say, the reason I'm calling you is I'm following up on a recent email I sent you. The reason I'm calling you specifically is I noticed that you oversee your specific Google YouTube account and you have the capability to actually hit the like button and subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Can you do that for me, please? So you always start out by saying the reason I'm calling you is, and then you can insert the reason and then get into the actual talk track. If you are interested in a deeper explanation of the specific script that I have used and mastered that works for any product or service across any industry, click on the first link in the description below for my professional B2B cold calling strategy and script that I put a lot of time into building. Over 34 people have made the investment into the product, and I've received tremendous feedback so far. One VP of sales messaged me and said, Trent, your cold calling strategies have become a mandatory part of our onboarding process. They absolutely work. They've helped me promote 6 times, 4x my income, and that's why I'm still here in the office, obsessed with what I'm doing, committed to my success, in it for the long game. And those are the 3 foundational strategies that will help you to ultimately, when we go back to the beginning, that will help you to gain status, earn more money, and consistently set meetings on the phone. If you're still with me and haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe now. We want 15,000 subscribers. Comment the sunglasses emoji also down below for the algorithm. Maybe comment twice. And the final sales pitch I'll leave you with is that if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, because I get dozens of messages every day on LinkedIn, people saying, can I set up a call with you? Can I set up a call with you? I built a private membership community specifically to help you. If you press the join button down below, over 51 people are already a part of the private membership community. We have a members Discord that's active in. I always respond to questions. And we also do a weekly live coaching call every Sunday where you can bring any of your questions. And I also bring what's top of mind for me to help you and myself prepare and crush the week ahead. So I hope to see you there. Have a great rest of your day. Happy Q3. Let's go.